I'm going to be doing a two-part review of all the major cruise brands in the US currently. Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been on over 60 cruises the last 25 years. And I wanted to kind of give you some of my input on each of the brands based on my experiences in the hopes that it'll help you narrow down your choice when you go to select your first cruise line to try, or if you've been a cruiser of just one brand and are looking to try some other brands. Hopefully this information will be helpful. Before we get into each of the individual brands, I do want to give some basic guideline that for the first time cruisers, maybe avoid those 2 to 4 day cruises because those aren't usually really indicative of what cruising is like. You don't really get a true experience. And honestly, they sometimes tend to be more of a booze cruise or party ship. So really target those 5 to 7 day voyages. Anything longer than 7 days probably is not good for your first time because you really don't know if you're gonna like cruising or not. So I would not sign up for more than a 7 day cruise. And then the other thing to remember as a first time cruiser is do not book your cruise on a mega ship. So those ships that have 5,000, 6,000 passengers, they're just overwhelming, okay? Start with your small to mid-sized ships, anything from around that 2,000 to 3,000 passenger range. You'll have a lot better experience and you won't feel so overwhelmed. So in part one, I'm gonna be covering the ships that tend to be more targeted towards the young, families with young kids. And it's going to be Carnival, Royal Caribbean, NCL, and MSC. So we'll start with Carnival. Carnival currently has 29 ships in their fleet. They are known for their high energy, fun atmosphere. If you have little ones, Carnival has a fantastic kids program. Plus also for solo cruisers and people of all ages, they have a very good environment for the solo cruiser as well. They are known as the fun ship, and there's a reason for that, in that they really focus on high energy, fun atmosphere. Their cruise directors are some of the best at sea, in my opinion. They really help set the tone for the voyage. They're very high energy, outgoing personalities. So you will never be bored on a Carnival ship. Carnival ships do tend to be a little rowdy at times, especially if you're out late at night when the drink packages are really kicking in. It can get a little too out of control at times. Summer breaks and spring breaks are times that you might not want to cruise just because that's when the ship is going to be full with a lot of kids. That is their peak season. And so if you really want a little bit less chaotic environment, you might want to try to avoid the summertime and the spring break times. Carnival has ships in all sizes. Again, I would kind of target that small to mid-size. When you look at their class of ships, my favorites are the Vista class for the mid-size and the Spirit class for the smaller ships. So those are the two that I'd recommend. I do think they have one of the best comedy programs at sea. They really go all out and invest a lot in making sure you have nightly entertainment for comedy and stuff. So they really do a good job on that. The rest of their entertainment can be kind of hit and miss. I've found it to be really strong on some ships, and then other ships not so much. So it can be a little hit and miss there. Their food is decent. So it's comparable to Royal and NCL. It's not gonna, if you're a foodie, I wouldn't necessarily target Carnival for that, but it's decent food. You know, it's really good. I also think that Carnival has probably the largest and most active casino at sea. So if you are a person that likes the casinos and stuff, Carnival really caters to that group, and they have some great casinos. So customer service is pretty good on Carnival. I do believe that their staff is pretty stretched thin. When you look at their passenger to guest ratio, I think they do stretch it a little too thin. So the workers definitely are always busy. Carnival is a budget-friendly cruise line, so they are very affordable usually. So it is a good one to start out with, I think. Royal Caribbean is the next one we're going to talk to. They currently have 28 ships, and I think they're a good overall, all-around choice in that I've found Royal's probably the most consistent when it comes to experience and service throughout their whole fleet. So Royal Caribbean has all size ships, but they really are very heavy on the mega ships. So you got to keep that in mind, that you probably don't want to try a mega ship right off the bat. So target kind of their smaller to mid-sized ships. Royal does have my most favorite design of a ship in the mid-size, and that is their Freedom class ships. So it's going to be Liberty of the Seas, Independence of the Seas, and Freedom of the Seas. Those are fantastic design, and I think would be a really good one to start with. When you look at Royal, they have a very strong kids program. So I definitely would encourage families for that. They also are pretty good with their solo cruisers too. They're a little less high energy than Carnival, but they still have a very active evening and nightlife on their ships. I would say their entertainment tends to be a little bit better on the bigger ships than the smaller ones. So again, it kind of like Carnival can be hit or miss on the entertainment. Food is about mid. So, I mean, it's not bad, but not necessarily the greatest either. They do have a lot of choices for dining, which is nice. They are a little more expensive on that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Next is Norwegian Cruise Line, or NCL. They have 19 ships. NCL is known for being freestyle cruising, in that they really stress giving you options. So when dinner or dining is, they don't really have main dining room. They have multiple restaurants, and you can kind of pick which one you like and rotate around if you want. You're not going to really have the main dining room experience like you do on some of the other cruise lines, where you have the same table each night with the same people, in a set schedule. It's going to be a little more, rotating around. So Norwegian does really go after the solo cruiser too. They have a dedicated lounge for your solo cruisers and cabins specifically designed for solo cruisers. They are about the only one at sea that really embraces that program. They also definitely are targeted towards families. I would say very good for like your preteens and your teenagers. They have like go-karts. They have a lot of activities that really are great for the kids that are a little bit older. I know when my family was first starting out, we did Carnival when the kids were real little, and then as they got a little bit older, we did kind of gravitate towards NCL and Royal. So the downside on NCL is that they can nickel and dime you. But unfortunately, a lot of the other cruise brands have gotten that way too. So it's not as noticeable as it used to be. Entertainment can be pretty decent. And I'd say there probably is a bigger difference on the older Norwegian ships versus the newer. The older ones just don't have a lot of features and stuff. It's more noticeable than some of the other brands. So I would try to stay with a ship that's a little bit more new, like the NCL Joy is a fantastic ship. I would highly recommend that one. And then the last one we're going to cover off is MSC. So MSC has 24 ships. There's only about 6 that are active in the U.S. market. MSC is a big name internationally, but not necessarily in the U.S. market. So they are trying to establish themselves here. They've sent some of their newest and biggest ship to the U.S. market, again, to try to get more business in this area. With it being an international ship, they do attract definitely an international clientele. So don't expect English to be the only language you're hearing. It's going to be a very diverse passenger group on MSC. Also, I would say their food is not the best in my opinion. I think they do have a lot of areas for improvement when it comes to their food quality. They do have some good specialty dining, which is for a fee, but their main dining room, yeah, it's kind of hit and miss on that. Entertainment is pretty decent on the MSCs. They've really added a lot of activities. They've kind of revamped their entertainment program. So I do think they have a really good program now there. They do have some of the most beautiful ship designs I've ever seen. The MSC Meraviglia and the Seascape are gorgeous ships. So they have great design on that and decor. Their weakest area, I think, is customer service. They are not usually the most polite. They're and can be abrupt at times. So I think that's a big area for them to work on, is the customer service area. I know that they are trying to get better on that area. But on the flip side, they also are one of the cheapest cruise lines to try in the US. So you get a lot for your money on MSC. So the MSC Seascape is probably my favorite ship out of their US market. So I do definitely recommend to give that one a try. So as you wrap up this first part, the 4 cruise lines that I covered in this one, Carnival, Royal, NCL, and MSC, are definitely targeted towards families with kids. The part 2 will be focused on the cruise lines that are not as kid-centric, in that it's going to be Virgin, which is adults only, Princess, Holland America, and Celebrity. So if you found this information helpful, I really encourage you to subscribe and hit that like button with notifications. And that way you'll be notified when part 2 comes out and we talk about the other 4 cruise lines. So again, hope this helps you narrow down. And the whole goal is to find the cruise brand that best matches your personal vibe and interests. And just know it, throughout life, your desires are going to change. So what you liked 20 years ago is not necessarily what you're going to like now. So experiment and try all the different lines. I think there's a lot to be said on each one. Thanks a lot.